Welcome back to my channel, or to my channel if you're new. I'm Claire, and I read books. And today I am joined by Will.
Hello, hello. And we have a project that we've been working on for a while.
Yes.
It is called Reverse Engineering Wattpad. Perhaps some of you are aware of what Wattpad is. I was not before I met Claire. How would you describe Wattpad?
A place where, writers of all walks of life go to share their stories. Back in my time on Wattpad, it was mostly fan fictions.
Back in your time. in the olden days.
Back in 2013. I dabbled in the fan fictions, but we're not going to go past that explanation for my stories because yikes. And I don't know, how did I get you on Wattpad?
I think you just showed me one of the stories. And, it's wonderful, of course, that there's a site where people can just go post their writing. I won't knock that at all. But we looked at a few of these, and most of them, well, at least of the ones that we looked at, were very similar. Kind of a YA focus, young, innocent, high school or new to college girl meets a bad boy, falls in love, and drama, romance, and low comedy ensue. Things of that nature.
Yeah. Like After, for people who have seen my review of that. But some of these books were a lot better. We also may have read some of mine, which sort of followed that pattern as well. Well, if you read them, I avoided it.
Yes.
So
one of these days, we had noticed so many common things to all of these stories, certain story beats, character types, and we realized that we could very quickly draw up a basic plan for what a Wattpad story would be, and then reverse engineer an actual story off of those key elements. And that's what we ended up doing.
And it was a lot of fun. Lots of laughter was shed. Thinking of those moments. And we're here to share it with you.
Yep. So this is not going to be anything too long to start, but we're just going to go through a basic overview of the characters you'll see featured in the story, and show you just the table of contents, I suppose. The story ended up being 26 chapters long. I think we're at 134 pages.
Yep, and it's 43,000 words, which...
something in that neighborhood.
Is about the size of kind of breaking into the young adult genre. So we're in the zone. Yeah. This was not just, we wrote 2 paragraphs. Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah. Basically, what happened was we drew up a plan for what each chapter would contain. Those were actually just about a paragraph each, sometimes even less, for what the chapter would contain. And then we divided up the chapters. We wrote the first chapter and the last chapter together, and then everything in between we divided up And after a while, we finally finished it.
It's been in the works for a while, but that's just given it the opportunity to become the best that it could be, even though
maybe it's a parody. We're poking fun at these cliches and tropes because, boy, there are a lot of cliches in a lot of these stories.
So many, but they were fun to play around with, I think.
So let's get into the characters really quickly here.
Yes.
So first, you have to have a main character who is a girl, the heroine. And the thing about the heroine, of course, is that she has to be unique. You know, everything about her is kind of unique, although she, of course, does not notice that about herself. Even her name has to indicate how unique she is, and so the heroine in our story is named Rosalind Jasmine Sapphire Paige Mackenzie Braden. She was named by her free-spirited mother, Rosalind for her grandmother, Jasmine because she is so pure that when she was born she smelled like jasmine, and Sapphire because she has a birthmark on her hip that looks like a sapphire. She absolutely abhors being called any shortened variation of her name because it was important to her mother, and her mother died of 37 different kinds of cancer. BBLI, we'll meet him in a second, frequently refers to her as Rosie because he knows it bothers her. She has one blue eye and one green eye. Her passion is making pipe cleaner animals, which is a passion she shared with her mother. Her favorite animal is the giraffe, and she has a bunch of giraffe-themed stuff. Her favorite snack is potato chips. She slut-shames every other girl who looks at BBLI. She also regularly sticks her tongue out at people for who the hell knows what reason. That's really what you want to have in a Wattpad heroine. Those are some very essential traits.
Well, in any heroine, really, I want to read a book where the girl sticks her tongue out at everything. Like, I don't want this contained to just Wattpad. This needs to be out there.
But only if she has different colored eyes.
Yeah, only if the eye thing. I remember when Will's the one who named Rosalind Jasmine Sapphire. I remember when he texted me her name. I thought, how the hell am I going to spell that every time that I have to spell it? Thankfully, the story's in first person. And Ace calls her Rosie, which brings me into who Ace is. Ace is our BBLI, which stands for Bad Boy Love Interest. His full name is Ace Pike, a lot shorter than Rosalind Jasmine Sapphire. A BBLI's defining trait is his man pain. He must have excessive amounts of man pain stemming from a sad, tragic backstory, which renders him one not to date. His talent so usually the BBLI has something special. In a lot of these books, it's that they work on their cars, or any form of car, and we thought Ace needs something special, so his special talent is that he's a magician, and he's always getting into fights. The hero, like Rosie, strongly dislikes him because he's a complete jackass. She ultimately falls in love with him and his man pain because a jackass with man pain is irresistible. And
I think that's the life lesson I've really learned from.
And
I think that's the life lesson I've really learned from looking at a bunch of these stories.
Yeah, but also, Will, as the woman of our duo, I can confirm that a jackass with man pain is irresistible. So.
Oh, there you go. Oh. Art imitates life. Our next character here, the heroine has a single parent. So the single parent can be it could be a mother or a father or a grandmother. Rarely a grandfather, I've noticed.
Yeah.
But in our case, we have Grandma Rose. So the heroine's maternal grandmother. The protagonist lives with her at the start of the story before moving to college. As a general rule, whenever she is around, there will likely be crying on both her and the heroine's parts. And as previously mentioned, she is the namesake of the first third of the heroine's first name.
Her name's so long. The first third. So usually, unless you were gonna.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna. So usually when you go to college and you're in a dorm, you have a roommate. Tattooed up and down her arms, her natural hair color is black, but she has red and purple highlights. She teases the heroine about the sparks flying between her and BBLI, and warns her about BBLI's edgy, BB ways. I love the way that's worded. While the heroine is necessarily a virgin and inexperienced with dating, the roommate has plenty of experience with guys. Raven is a pretty fun character. She has some great scenes.
Next up, we have the best friend, whose name is Arnie. So the best friend is very obviously in love with the heroine, but can't compete with BBLI, so he takes up permanent residence in the friend zone. BBLI constantly refers to him as a dweeb or a pathetic weenie, and he's going to be a prime example of what people mean when they say that nice guys finish last. Now, interestingly, out of all of the characters, Arnie is the one who we had a very specific image in mind for. And we both actually were picturing the same thing, interestingly enough.
Yeah. And I think we texted each other about it at the same time, or very close to the same time.
Yep. So who we were picturing, and we're gonna put his picture up here, but this is a character named Arnold from the Magic School Bus. And basically we were picturing this guy, except without glasses. And actually the fact that we named the character Arnie is a coincidence. That was previous to us realizing that we were picturing Arnold from the Magic School Bus.
I didn't know his name was Arnold until you went, oh, you mean Arnold? Because I just said that orange-haired kid from the Magic School Bus. So, works out.
It works out.
So, what's life without your own friend? So far, Rosie has a few more than Ace. That leads us to the BBLI's best friend. His name is Spike. The BBLI's best friend is in a relationship with the roommate. He is basically the biggest jackass in the world, constantly cheating on the roommate and making rude comments and bullying people. He will eventually try to get the heroine in bed. There's a lot of examples of this character throughout Wattpad.
Yeah, and the heroine, it seems to me, despite not realizing how special and unique she is, constantly has a bunch of people trying to get her into bed.
Yeah.
This character being one of them.
Yeah.
And that brings us to, I think, the last major character in this story, and definitely the one who really helps make it a true Wattpad story. Claire's already laughing. So we have the author, the actual author of the story, Rosalind Jade. So the actual author of the book, who makes periodic appearances throughout it herself with a series of author's notes, allowing her to comment on her own story, and therefore connect with her readers. The fact that the heroine shares a slightly varied version of her name is surely just a coincidence, right?
She's fun.
So that was something I was entirely unfamiliar with, I think, before I saw a few Wattpad stories, was author's notes.
I am guilty of putting an author's note smack dab in the middle of my text.
There doesn't seem to be a rule necessarily for where they go. Sometimes they come at the start of the chapter, sometimes at the end, sometimes right in the middle.
Right in the middle of dialogue, even. Like, it's everywhere.
Now, those are the key characters who we included in our own story. There were a few other important kind of archetypes who did not end up making it into our story here. So for the sake of completion, I guess, let's cover those really quickly too. So who do we have next?
So Usually, if the main character is not going to college, she's in high school. And in high school, what do you have if not a lifelong best friend? In variations of Wattpad stories where the heroine is still in high school, she will have the lifelong best friend, which I just said. This is another girl who has essentially been friends with the heroine since they left the birth canal. Their mothers may have even been best friends. There's likely some shared activity that they have together, which in itself likely includes the consumption of an excessive amount of junk food. The lifelong best friend is going to be excessively hard on BBLI and withhold her approval for him as dating the heroine, because that is obviously how best friends are. She's not appearing in this story because the story is set in college and not high school.
Almost a shame, because the lifelong best friend would have been a fun one to write for. I feel like that actually I think is the key differentiating factor between a lot of these stories, is whether they're still in high school or they're new to college.
Yeah, they're wildly different stories depending on what level of education the main character's at.
They're actually not that different, though.
Well, fair enough. All right.
Now, the next kind of archetype who is not showing up in ours is the Liam Arnie. So, distinguishable from a true Arnie, a Liam Arnie is moderately to highly physically attractive, and the heroine does genuinely entertain the idea of being with him instead of BBLI. She is somewhat conflicted over this for a while, perhaps having had feelings for Liam Arnie that go back a number of years. Other girls may find him attractive as well, but none of them appeal to him because he is in love with the heroine. At some point after the heroine has been with BBLI for a while, she and BBLI will have a fight that results in them breaking up and the heroine beginning to date Liam Arnie. But before long, the heroine realizes that there is no true spark between her and Liam Arnie. Because Liam Arnie is such a nice guy, he then actively encourages the heroine to stop seeing him and go back to BBLI so she can truly be happy. And he's not appearing in this story because we went the route of having a true Arnie rather than a Liam Arnie. So kind of almost another example, really, of nice guy finishing last. He's such a nice guy that he actively tanks his own relationship to encourage the heroine to go back to BBLI.
Well, I remember we also came to the conclusion that the Liam Arnie thanks the main character for letting him like her.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, so Liam Arnie.
And the last one that we have
is the bitch girl. This is a girl whom the heroine is always and has always been mortal enemies with. The bitch girl is likely the head of some posse of other girls, all of whom are antagonistic to the heroine. She also probably competes with the heroine for BBLI's affection. And she does not appear in the story because the role of the bitch girl has been divided among a few one-off characters within our story.
Yeah. So, the bitch girl, I don't know, doesn't seem to have a whole lot of impact on the story at the end of the day, which is why it just seemed easier, I think, to chop her up into a few different people.
I feel like if we added her into our story, it would just feel like unnecessary drama, which is what these books are full of, so that's saying a lot. She was just unnecessary for our plot to move on. It would make it feel like we're just trying too hard, which again says a lot.
So that is kind of the basic overview. You can probably infer a whole lot about what is actually in the story based on those characters alone. So we're going to wrap up this for now, I think, and next time we will read the first few chapters. But let's get an idea of what's coming first.
Yes. So here's our lovely hand-drawn cover.
naturally, the cover is designed by the author, Rosalind Jade herself.
We have nothing to do with it. If my thing is, there we go. And then just the title, Like Magic, by Rosalind Jade.
And we have our table of contents. So, again, we said 26 chapters. So, Chapter 1, Little Giraffe's Big Adventure.
Chapter 2, Not Quite Home.
Chapter 3, The Magic Trick.
Chapter 4, A Warning.
Chapter 5, The New Friend.
Chapter 6. This one shouldn't make me laugh this hard.
Chapter 6, Cucumbers, Mayonnaise, and Carrots.
Chapter 7, A Moment Out of Time.
Chapter 8, The Truth.
Chapter 9, The Eyes Don't Lie.
Chapter 10, Everything About You.
Chapter 11, Girl Talk.
Chapter 12, The Carnival and the Compliment.
Chapter 13, Beautiful.
Chapter 14, A Man with Pain.
Chapter 15, The Glow.
Chapter 16, Psychology Test.
Chapter 17, Mark and the Moonless, Mirthless, Sour Queen of Darkness and Sorrow.
Chapter 18, The Slutty Waitress.
Chapter 19, The Fighter and the Dweeb.
Chapter 20, The Nurse's Office.
Chapter 21, The Promise.
Chapter 22, Stand Still.
Chapter 23, The Hospital.
What? She's gonna end up in the hospital?
What? Will, spoilers.
The chapter title didn't give it away. Chapter 24, Ties That Bind.
Chapter 25, Darkness into Light.
And Chapter 26, Like Magic. Really a strong ends to it there to have the actual name of the story be the title of the last chapter as well.
Yeah. So that's what's to come.
And we're looking forward to it. So I guess we'll see you soon.
And comment what chapter title intrigued you the most, because I'm very curious.